Well, you think about a conference office, 95% of what we do happens on campus. We don't build facilities, we don't hire coaches, we don't have student athletes. So I think it's really imperative to get out. And when I was on campus, it really meant a lot when the conference came to see us, because it meant you're really interested in how things are done. Each campus has its own culture.
I know you're only part way through this campus tour, but everywhere you go, you'll learn something. So what have you learned about the Mountain West Conference so far that you really love, and what have you learned about the conference that makes you go, yeah, we need to get better there?
What I really love is the support. These schools come out. The fan bases come out. In a lot of areas, we're the only show in town. There's a lot of alignment, which I really appreciate, between president, athletic director, coaching staff, and what athletics means to institutions as the front porch. So that I love, because from a commissioner's point of view, you can't recreate that. Like, you can't coach 7 foot. You know, that kind of investment and love of athletics, you can't really manufacture. What was the other half of the question? The soft spots, maybe? Or what I love about the league is, every institution has places it wants to get better, that they need to invest more or want to grow. But what I love about it is not one or two institutions represent all of our soft spots, and around that alignment, we're really, really strong. And there's a very high level of awareness about where each school wants to get to. It's not an exercise where I have to say, hey, it would be really nice if you improved here or there. All our schools are focused on raising.
What similarities do you see with Gonzaga basketball and Boise State football?
Again, I think that alignment and investment and community support. Back in the day, building a program took 5-10 years. Now I think the expectation of institutions and fans are 1 or 2 years. And what I love about this league is our history. We have a history in these sports of success. I think what Boise State football represents both to the league and to this community has a lot in common with how Gonzaga is situated in the WCC.
You potentially could be a couple months into the job and already be losing a school in your conference, based on reports out there. What can you say about your conversation with San Diego State and how that, what the latest there, I guess?
Very close communication. I believe in the transparency. I go back with J.D. Wicker, the athletic director, back to his days at Washington State. So on the one hand, don't want to lose any schools. On the other, I understand that you have to do what's best for your program. So let's communicate and work our way through it. We have a membership subcommittee, 3 ADs, 3 presidents that have met once, are going to meet again. So we're ready. We're ready for scenario A, B, C, D, Armageddon. But this is our new normal. Mountain West was the original disruptor back in the day, forming a new conference, and I feel like every Division I commissioner is thinking about this issue weekly, if not daily.
Your working relationship with George Leon, how do you know him? How well do you know him? How much do you talk? How much do you guys communicate one-on-one behind the scenes about this specific topic?
I know George very well. When I was at the Pac-12, he was one of our main MGM liaisons, so we did a lot of work in Vegas with the basketball tournaments. Wonderful human being. He's been wonderfully gracious in chatting, texting, communicating, and thinking about our future together. Even if they do expand, I don't think that will negatively impact our relationship or our ability to think collectively about what's good for the Western region.
You touched on it a little bit, but one of George's messages to San Diego State a long time ago and other schools was invest in your future. And the SMUs and San Diego States of the world are lots of money, big stadiums, and they're actually moving dirt and stuff. So how much do you have to push Mountain West schools, all of them, to invest, and do it right now?
And that is what I feel is great about this league. The commissioner's position does push in certain areas, but right now in my opening tour, I'm hearing from schools what they want from us. They want to know our comparables. They want to know the spending levels of both in the league and against our biggest competition. They have a very clear sense of where they need to be, and we're supporting them in providing that data and the information to make those well-informed decisions on campus.
Are you pleased with all the schools making making that investment, or do you, I mean, do you see the results? Do you see the action in place?
I think it's early days for me to say that, but I am very, very pleased with the focus and the attention and the level of understanding our presidents group have. We have a lot of new presidents in the league, and many of them understand that athletics is the front porch to what they're trying to achieve in their universities.
You talked a little about kind of understanding the top-heavy nature of Gonzaga as it relates to the conference and Boise State as this conference. What are you hearing from presidents on the split agreement that gives Boise State a larger share of television revenue, and where do you come down on that personally?
It definitely has been a topic for me. It's educating myself on the nature of the deal. I think you'll see more and more leagues are moving towards some baseline fair distribution with an ability to earn a little bit more based on performance, acknowledging that high-level performance does have its costs. So we are actually working through that. We are meeting as our president's group in March, and we are going to be presenting revenue distribution models to talk about that. But definitely the Boise State piece of that, I inherited it. It is what it is. It's in there, and I think when we analyze the bigger revenue distribution, we'll look at models that may or may not, will not affect that.
As you're presenting those models, when would those start?
That's a really good question. I don't think I've gotten that far yet.
The subcommittee you mentioned, are they already making lists of potential replacements, or are they deciding if you're gonna stand pat, or what's kind of what are they doing, I guess, in their early going?
So we, as you can imagine, the Mountain West has been in this discussion pretty much annually. So at a conference, we have all the detail. We have scrubbed all the schools. We have spreadsheets of comparison and competitive strength, financial, et cetera, But the exercise we're going through now is describing our why. What do we want when we think about expansion? If we don't lose a school, do we need to add schools, and what is our why? And what is our rank order of why? It has several factors: football, basketball strength, sport competitive top to bottom, media market, media value, two different things, brand elevation, academic fit, mission culture fit, geography. You have all these factors, and we need to get clarity on, as a group, how are we going to rank order those? So that's task one. And then task two is then looking at the data in the schools and seeing who fits our why, depending on what happens to us, or if nothing happens to us, should we expand anyway? So we're working through that analysis.
Is either Dr. Trump or Jeremiah on the committee? Or?
Yes, Dr. Trump is on the committee.
Is there a number, like if you look at some of these leagues, I think the SEC, when Oklahoma and Texas come in and have 16, is there a number that becomes too big or too unwieldy for a conference?
Personally, 16 makes me nervous, but that's just me. I think that's a lot of agendas. But I think a sweet spot for us is 10 to 12. Because one, strength in numbers, but also you got to look at your region and the schools around you and how you're trying to schedule non-conference and the availability of opponents. If the bigger those teams get, or leagues get, does it make us tougher for us to schedule non-conference and across our sports? But with the Pac-12 losing UCLA and USC to the Big Ten, there could be some really good opportunity there to schedule those teams so that they can stay in the Western region in their non-conference season. Plays into our strengths. So there's a lot there, but I haven't really gotten deep into individual sports schedules yet.
George was in Dallas playoff talk a couple of days ago, and I've heard Andy Avalos and Jeremiah Dickey talk about they would love Boise State football to be in Texas more. Obviously, the best way to do that would be to incorporate the state of Texas into this league. Is that important to you? Are we going to see Gloria Nevarez sitting in a basketball arena in North Texas or San Antonio or something? How strongly will you consider the state of Texas?
I think our membership does share that desire, or shares the understanding of the attractiveness of having a Texas, both media market and recruiting market, both for athletics and students generally. So, but I don't want to get in front of the work of this subcommittee and favor any one direction over another. But certainly if that was the directive of this subgroup, I'd be traveling to wherever we wanted to expand into.
I mean, you probably had your agenda when you first took over, and this came up right away, or what? I mean, is it exciting, I guess, that you can have such a big impact right away, or such a big challenge potentially, or I guess you would rather just keep it as is and worry about other stuff, or how do you feel about all this being now that's at the forefront of all?
You mean membership?
Yeah, and
Yeah.
the questions are all about, that's obviously the big thing going on right now with the league.
Yeah, and it's different because certainly it's unlike many, many years, decades in college athletics. But on the other hand, for me, it's exciting because we are dealing with this question from a position of strength. If we lose one or two schools, we could still be okay. We are an FBS league well positioned within the 10 to consistently vie for that 6th spot. We have no shortage of schools that are interested in joining us because of the strength of our league and our brand and our situation. So whenever you're in the market, it's good to have market power.
One of my last conversations with Craig Thompson was, the day he inherited or took over as Mountain West Commissioner and the day that he left, a lot had changed. In the current landscape, like what excites you most about being the commissioner of the Mountain West Conference?
What Craig built. One, operationally, I think our conference is really, really well run. We do a great job on the blocking and tackling of the office operations. And then two, Craig's legacy of the college football playoff expansion. That's a tremendous opportunity for us to be consistently in the middle, if not top 5 in CFP.
Yeah, when you speak on the college football playoff expanding, how big an opportunity is that you see for the Mountain West?
Amazing, both in playoff spot opportunity, but media value in the next negotiation. And it was interesting, they sent me some historical articles. Craig had been trying to push that boulder up a hill since, I think, 2019. And the statesmanship and the diplomacy with which he did eventually get that boulder up the hill was just amazing.
You talked about media market and media value, you said they were different, and that's a really good argument between like the Boise States and the SMUs of the world in terms of one's in a big media market, but one might get more television viewership. Break that down, break that argument down for me a little bit.
Exactly. I think Boise State's the great example of that argument. Media market, geographically, population-wise, not as large as a major metropolitan center. However, media value, clearly, as we acknowledged from the prior deal, very, very strong. So you don't want to lump those in together when analyzing potential schools, because you can be in a great media market, example LA, but not draw the eyeballs or have the success that has really pulled in the value. So we split those out when we think about schools and what we're looking for. But also, you think about if we are in the ecosystem somewhere squarely in the middle, your top teams are always going to be aspirational. It's the same on your roster. It's the same in any company or organization. So we also have to think about us as, looking at that next generation. And then our why might change a little in that. And you're looking more at potential. So the committee's job is really going to be drilling into that and figuring out where we need to be today, where we need to be in 3 years when we renegotiate our media, or where we need to be in, I'm not doing the math right, but 6 years when the A5 again renegotiate their deals.
When you renegotiate the media, where do you think the future lies with streaming? We have massive, mega streaming outlets now. We haven't really seen them attach themselves to a particular conference yet. It's kind of like the Wild West. What's your opinion of the future of watching a lot of these games like people watch television now on some type of streaming service?
Yeah, the Wild West, it feels like that. And in fact, when I thought by now, 2023, that the market would have settled out and we'd have that answer by now. And so since you remember when cell phones came out and everyone had their own plan and I couldn't call you and you couldn't call me and they had extra fees, and then all of a sudden the market leveled and we could all port our phone numbers and call each other without having to worry about it. I think we're waiting for that leveling in the streaming market. I look forward to seeing what the Pac-12 does. I'm looking forward to the NFL. CFP as well are going into the market for negotiations. So I think we'll get a lot more information and hopefully a lot more, comfort level with going to a streaming platform. I think our next gen is comfortable there, but maybe some of our traditional sports fans aren't yet. I myself get a little frustrated when I have to authenticate and register and give my email address just to see a game.
How many, March, the selection Sunday is less than a month away. When it comes to basketball, how many teams do you believe out of the Mountain West? And as commissioner, how do you, advocate for
Yeah, so I strongly believe right now we're looking at 5. We have 5 teams in the top 40 in the net ranking. We're the number 1 league in the West. We're the 5th ranked team average net ranking in the country. But more importantly, and I don't know that folks have honed in on this, we have a 72% winning percentage in non-conference. But what does that mean? That means if you stub your toe in league play, lose a game that maybe you weren't supposed to, or something like that, you're not going to fall down the net ranking. That non-conference work is a result of tremendous scheduling and winning by our coaches relative to where they are in rebuilding or vying for seeding in their season, and that's really going to carry us through to the end. What did we do as a conference? I think we've consolidated around our talking points. We advocate with the NCAA committee, but really, we're just amplifying the work that's being done on campus and on the field, or on the court.
Where do you sit in terms of, it's been a debate in this league, 18 versus 20 league games for basketball? You have the uniqueness of 11 teams, so you can do round robin if you were at 20. Non-con scheduling plays into that too. It's 2 less games, but is there, and maybe it's too early for you to say, but does anybody talk about that? Or?
It's a little early, but I will share my personal philosophy is conference play, both your non-conference scheduling requirements, if you have them, the structure of your regular season and the structure of your tournament should all be designed or to help get the most teams in the tournament at the highest possible seed. And that's an annual analysis, right? So if you have a league that's top heavy but really soft at the bottom, that's one type of analysis. If you have a league like ours that's really kind of performing at this kind of compact level at the top, that's another. That would lend itself to thinking more about a true double round robin. But we also have the open question of membership that would have a ripple effect into that number of teams in the league. So it is a little bit TBD, but we look forward to getting into that a little bit deeper as the year goes on.
You mentioned the postseason, and I think I asked you about this back before the championship game, the tournament there. Ironically, Gonzaga was maybe talking to the Mountain West when you guys changed the rules about for that to benefit them. But how do you think that has played out? I know Leon's been a big proponent of going something similar here. Is that something we could see here, or similar format? Or?
And when that was adopted in the WCC, we had a very high top angling for number 1 seeds national titles, and the bottom was a lot softer. So at the time it made sense, but one can argue it's probably time to reanalyze that for the WCC based on kind of the strength of the bottom and the middle coming up. So again, I do think, and I haven't had a chance to really dig into our sustainability of what we have next year, or how far back we've gone, or how far forward based on what we're doing. But the stronger you are, the more compact you are, I believe it lends more towards true double round robin.
You alluded to this earlier, but there's all the things that you have to do, right? With membership, with contracts, and hand-holding presidents, et cetera, What are you making time for? What did you come into this role wanting to accomplish from the outset as a commissioner?
I think strategic vision planning for the league as well as brand. I think we have a very strong regional brand, very strong product, but I would like to see us take that nationally. So taking a real deep dive, articulating what the DNA of this league is. I think we have a strong sense of self. Our schools know who they are. They know who our league is together, but really getting deliberate about articulating that and then banging that drum across the Rockies and into the national spotlight.
Is there a difference running a conference where I think everybody on the WCC side is a private university, and I think everything on this side is a public university? Is there a difference in doing that?
Yes. However, I've spent most of my career at large public institutions, including where I went to high school, college, law school, and all my jobs in between. And so being at public institutions, especially the larger ones, has a difference to it, but nothing that isn't kind of what I'm used to.
Teresa, when it comes to NIL, what is your take on that? How does the Mountain West work with membership programs, and how? I mean, in order to stay competitive as a group of 5, obviously that's an area that your schools need to have success.
Where do I stand on NIL? I think it's a positive thing for the student athletes. I like and believe they should be able to monetize their name, image, likeness. I wish we had, as an organization, as a membership, gotten our arms around it, changed with the times as social was adopted. And who was the skier at Colorado who first brought the...
Bloom
Yeah, right? Like that probably would have been the time we should have started modernizing our policies, and we didn't. And I say we because NCAA is a membership organization. My personal belief, I hope we can put some of the toothpaste back in the tube and let the institutions have a role in name, image, likeness. You're already hearing about student athletes who've signed their rights away into perpetuity, maybe got taken advantage of, or have signed deals that haven't come to fruition. And without the institution involved, both in education and maybe accountability, it's a little bit of the wild, wild west, and I feel the student athletes have a higher risk. However, there have been a lot of great stories about student athletes capitalizing and keeping them in school, helping them monetize during their prime earning years, and raising profile of sports. So I think it's a good thing. I just hope we can get our arms back around some kind of institutional involvement to help educate and protect our student athletes.
Football and men's basketball tend to attract the most attention around the country. How do you bring more attention to the women's sports and what the women are accomplishing in the Mountain West?
I personally believe that's exposure, and that is something that at the conference office, raising the profile of sports has to do with, making sure we have a robust platform on our digital streaming, but also as often as we can, providing linear opportunity. I would add to that too, activating all the channels we use to amplify football and men's basketball across all of our sports.